Ever get that feeling like the world's spinning just a little too fast?
Oh, absolutely.
Technology's taking these huge leaps. Global markets are, well, constantly moving.
Hmm.
And it can be really tough to cut through all the noise and figure out what actually matters.
Hmm.
I mean, I remember seeing the shift in my own community, jobs changing,
Yeah.
industries just evolving. It leaves you wondering, what's next and how do we even prepare?
Yeah, that feeling of rapid change and needing to understand what it all means.
Yeah,
That's exactly what we're trying to tackle today, finding some clarity in all the complexity.
exactly. So welcome to the deep dive. This isn't just another news recap.
Yeah.
We take sources chosen by listeners and we go deep. We pull out the key insights, the actionable knowledge. Think of us as maybe your guides to understand the forces shaping our future, but without the overwhelm.
And today, our mission is really to demystify some of the biggest industrial shifts happening right now.
Yeah.
We're going to explore the revolutions in robotics, the incredible advances in life sciences, the way money itself is changing through code, the critical world of cybersecurity, and that pervasive influence of big data.
And our roadmap for this deep dive is a really fascinating book, The Industries of the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal isn't just to, understand these changes intellectually, but more importantly, to translate them into something practical for you, our listener. How do these shifts hit your daily life, and what steps can you maybe take to navigate this changing world?
And it's worth just pausing for a second to appreciate the sheer speed of it all. I mean, the author's own story, going from a midnight janitor in a declining industrial area to advising on innovation at the highest levels.
Yeah.
It just highlights so dramatically how the landscape can shift and, well, how important it is to stay informed.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The book kicks off by looking at winners and losers in, the previous waves of globalization and innovation. What can we learn from that past experience?
Well, that last big wave of globalization, plus the early stages of automation, it really shook things up. The winners, often investors who jumped into new markets, entrepreneurs driving the innovation,
Right.
and people with really specialized in-demand skills. And globally, there was a huge positive side, too. Over 1 billion people, mostly in developing countries, moved into the middle class, largely because global trade and lower labor costs created new jobs.
Like China, for instance.
Exactly. The massive poverty reduction in China is probably the most powerful example of that broad positive trend, new opportunities opening up worldwide.
So a lot of opportunity, but like you said, it shakes things up. There's always another side to that coin, isn't there?
Indeed. The losers, so to speak, were often people in high-cost labor markets, folks whose skills maybe didn't keep pace with technology or who faced more competition from lower-cost labor moving production overseas. The author's own experience as a janitor really brings this home. He mentions many colleagues weren't just doing that job temporarily.
Right, it wasn't a stepping stone.
No. The traditional manufacturing or mining jobs that used to support their communities, they'd just vanished due to automation or jobs moving elsewhere.
He even talks about his own hometown in West Virginia, Nitro, I think, where the industries that built the place, coal, chemicals, eventually led to its decline, that whole cycle.
Yeah, Nitro, West Virginia is a really potent example. The chemical industry, they even made Agent Orange there for a while, brought prosperity.
Wow.
But when those industries changed and shrank, the area faced real economic hardship. And that wasn't unique. Lots of industrial regions went through similar cycles as global economics and technology just reshaped everything.
So that's the history lesson, basically. What does the book say about the next wave? The one driven by these new industries we're talking about today.
The key takeaway is that this dynamic, the sort of creative destruction where new industries rise and change or even replace old ones, it's not over. In fact, the author argues it's probably going to accelerate. As fields like robotics, life sciences, this codification of everything, cybersecurity, big data as they mature, and crucially, start interacting with each other. This ongoing disruption will keep creating new winners and, well, new challenges too.
Okay, let's dive into one of those right now. Robotics. Feels like we hear about new stuff constantly.
Yeah.
What's the big picture here for our listeners? What should they grasp?
The robotics revolution is definitely picking up steam. The book points to the 2020s, like this decade, as pivotal. We'll see robots moving beyond just those very controlled factory settings
Okay.
and becoming much more integrated into our work, our daily lives. So for you, this means understanding that automation is likely to touch more and more industries. That brings new opportunities, sure, but also that need to adapt.
And who are the main players driving this? Where's this innovation centered?
There are a few key countries really leading the charge: Japan, China, the US, South Korea, and Germany. They're sometimes called the Big Five in
The
robotics.
big five, okay.
Yeah, together they account for the vast majority of global robot sales. Japan, the US, Germany, they tend to focus on the higher value industrial and medical robots. South Korea and China are huge producers of more accessible consumer type robots.
Interesting split.
It is. And while Japan has a lot of robots in operation now, China's market is growing the fastest. So that signals a potential shift in leadership down the line. For you, keeping an eye on tech trends in these countries can give you real clues about future economic shifts, job market changes.
I've heard talk about robots getting smarter, almost learning from each other. How does that work? What does it mean?
Yeah, that's cloud robotics. Basically, imagine individual robots aren't just operating alone anymore with only their own limited experience.
Right.
By connecting them to a shared cloud network, they can tap into and contribute to this massive pool of data and learning. It's a bit like how the internet lets us humans share knowledge collectively.
So one robot figures something out.
Exactly. Say, a robot in a warehouse finds a better way to stack boxes. That learning can potentially be shared instantly with all the other similar robots on the network. That leads to much, much faster improvements in what they can do, how efficient they are.
Wow.
So for you, this accelerating learning curve means the pace of automation in different industries could be much quicker than, say, previous tech shifts we've seen.
Okay. The elephant in the room. Jobs. The big question everyone asks, are robots going to take all the jobs? What does this mean for my career, my kids' careers?
It's a really valid, really important concern. And there are studies, like one from Oxford University, suggesting a pretty significant chunk, maybe over half of U.S. jobs, could be at risk of computerization in the coming decades.
That's sobering.
It is. We've already seen automation impact manufacturing, data entry, that sort of thing. The Aspen Institute also has data showing job losses in sales roles because of increasing automation. So for those of you entering the workforce or thinking about a career change, it really highlights the need to focus on skills that are uniquely human. Things like creativity, complex problem solving, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. Those are harder to automate, at least for now.
So it's not necessarily all doom and gloom on the job front. There's nuance here.
Not entirely, no. The book makes a crucial point. Robots will displace certain jobs, absolutely, but they'll also create new ones, often in areas we can't even fully picture yet.
Like what?
Well, think about social media managers or drone operators. Those jobs didn't really exist 20 years ago. Plus, robots can sometimes help preserve jobs by taking over the most dangerous or repetitive tasks, letting humans focus on more strategic, maybe more fulfilling work. But the key takeaway for you really is that adapting your skills, being open to lifelong learning, that's going to be essential to navigate this shifting job market.
Can you give us some specific, like real-world examples? Where are we seeing robots making a difference today? Just make it more concrete.
Sure. In manufacturing, look at Foxconn, the huge electronics maker. They've deployed hundreds of thousands of robots for routine stuff. Assembly, painting, welding. Their long-term goal, fully automated factories.
Wow.
In healthcare, surgical robots like the Da Vinci system let surgeons do minimally invasive procedures with incredible precision. Now, these systems are expensive, they need highly skilled operators,
Right.
but things are evolving. There's the Raven robot, originally for the military, which is more accessible, open source. That could lead to wider use, maybe even remote surgery someday. But it's important to stress there's still debate about robot-assisted surgery. Human oversight, human judgment remain absolutely critical.
So doctors aren't going away anytime soon.
Definitely not. For you, this means robots will increasingly be tools in healthcare, but human expertise stays vital.
And what about outside those big industrial or medical settings? How are robots showing up in, say, our daily lives?
Well, Japan is a really interesting case study. They have a rapidly aging population, low birth rates. So they're investing heavily in elder care robots. Robots designed to help older people with daily tasks, getting dressed, moving safely, even providing companionship.
Companionship. Really?
Yeah. It's a fascinating example of using robotics to tackle a big societal challenge head-on. For you, this trend suggests we might see more sophisticated robots entering our homes, our communities, in the coming years, helping with all sorts of personal and household tasks.
That is a lot to think about just with robotics.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears. Advanced life sciences. What are the major breakthroughs happening here that listeners should know about?
The big theme here is the growing potential for us to live longer, healthier lives. That's the promise. But The book also makes a really important point early on. Access to these amazing advances. It's likely to be uneven, at least at first.
Ah, the access issue. Right.
Yeah. So for you, that highlights the ongoing need to, push for equitable access to the healthcare innovations as they come online.
What are the core technologies really driving this progress in life sciences?
Genomic sequencing is absolutely central. Sequencing the Haemophilus influenza genome back in '95 was a huge milestone.
I remember that.
Yeah, it showed sequencing whole genomes was actually feasible. That paved the way for the Human Genome Project and gave us this incredible insight into our own biological blueprint, right down at the molecular level. For you, this deeper genetic understanding is leading to much more personalized, targeted ways to diagnose and treat diseases.
Can you give us some solid examples? How is genomic sequencing being used right now?
Okay, think about early cancer detection.
Yeah.
Researchers like Bert Vogelstein at Johns Hopkins are working on liquid biopsy.
Liquid biopsies.
Yeah, simple blood tests that can find tiny traces of tumor DNA floating in your bloodstream, often years before a traditional tumor would show up on a scan or cause symptoms.
Wow.
Yeah, this could dramatically improve cure rates. Why? Because cancers caught really early, stage 1, are usually much more treatable. Take ovarian cancer. Stage 1 survival is around 95%. Stage 4, it drops to about 5%.
This is a staggering difference.
It is. So for you, this means the future of cancer screening might involve less invasive, maybe more frequent tests, leading to earlier diagnosis and much better outcomes.
Has incredible potential. What else is genomics doing in the cancer fight?
Well, companies like PGDx are using deep genomic analysis of a patient's specific tumor. They identify the unique mutations driving that cancer's growth.
Okay.
Then, doctors can use that info to personalize treatment, choosing drugs most likely to work against those specific mutations. Now, the book points out a bottleneck. Our ability to find these mutations is racing ahead.
But the drugs.
Exactly. Developing new drugs to target all those specific mutations sometimes lags behind. So for you, this underlines why we need continued investment in both genomic research and drug development. They have to go hand in hand.
Makes sense. And it sounds like genomics is moving beyond just cancer, too.
Oh, absolutely. Scientists are making real progress understanding the complex genetic factors in mental health issues like depression.
That's huge.
It is. Now, these conditions are complex, lots of genes interacting with environment, but research is identifying specific genetic risk markers, like the discovery of the ACP1 gene, found at higher levels in the brains of people who attempted suicide. That's a big step towards maybe, someday, developing treatments or ways to mitigate that biological risk. For you, it suggests a future where mental health care could become more biologically informed, more personalized.
The book also mentions some, more futuristic stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe ethically tricky areas,
Yeah.
like xenotransplantation, de-extinction.
Right. Those represent the real cutting edge, what's becoming biologically possible. Xenotransplantation, growing organs in other species like pigs for human transplants.
Yeah.
Could eventually solve the critical shortage of human donor organs. Companies like Human Longevity, Inc. are taking an even broader view, using genomics and other biodata to try and tackle the fundamental aging process itself.
Fighting aging itself.
Yeah, and de-extinction projects like Revive and Restore are exploring bringing extinct species back using advanced genomics. Now, these are early days, lots of ethical questions.
For sure.
But they show the sheer transformative power of modern life sciences. They could have profound impacts down the road. For you, even if these seem far off, they show the accelerating pace of discovery and the potential for radical shifts in how we think about health, lifespan, even biodiversity.
It sounds like there's some serious global competition heating up in genomics.
Definitely. China, particularly, has made huge strategic investments. They're actively recruiting top scientists from all over the world. Beijing is emerging as a major global hub for genomics now. For you, this global race highlights how international competition, but also collaboration, drives science forward.
And how are these advanced technologies reaching people in, say, developing countries where infrastructure might be limited?
Mobile health is proving incredibly important there. In places with fewer hospitals or clinics, mobile phone apps like MedAfrica and Kenya are giving people access to medical info, diagnostic tools, connections to doctors.
All on a phone.
Yeah. It shows how technology can sometimes leapfrog traditional infrastructure and help democratize healthcare, even when resources are tight. For you, it's a great example of innovation addressing global health gaps.
Okay, let's pivot. Something that feels really woven into our digital lives now.
Yeah.
The codification of money. What does that actually mean for listeners?
Basically, it's this ongoing shift away from physical cash towards digital forms. And more than that, it's the increasing reliance on computer code, on algorithms to manage our financial transactions, even our markets.
We were seeing a lot of this, right?
Oh, yeah. We've lived through big stages: paper money to credit cards, ATMs, online banking, now mobile payment apps. It's undeniably convenient, efficient. So for you, this trend just means understanding digital financial tools and concepts is getting more and more essential for just managing your everyday money.
And where do things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies fit in?
Bitcoin is a prime example of a purely digital currency, or cryptocurrency. It exists only as code, uses cryptography for security. It really emerged after the 2008-2009 financial crisis.
Right, there was a lot of skepticism about banks then.
Exactly. It was fueled by that skepticism towards traditional finance, government-backed money. The core technology, blockchain, is this decentralized, transparent ledger. It's designed for secure online transactions without needing traditional middlemen like banks. For you, understanding crypto and blockchain is important because they could represent a really significant shift in finance's future, though they definitely come with risks and complexity.
What are some of those benefits and drawbacks if I was thinking about using Bitcoin, say?
Well, proponents talk about more efficient transactions, potentially lower fees, easier micropayments, but the big challenge is security. We've seen major hacks, like the Mt. Gox exchange collapse years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah. While Bitcoin's underlying blockchain seems pretty secure, the things around it, the exchanges where you buy and sell, the digital wallets where you store it, those have been vulnerable. So for you, it really underlines the need for caution, for doing your homework if you get involved with crypto.
The book also connects the sharing economy to this coded money idea. How do platforms like Airbnb or Uber fit in?
The sharing economy, powered by apps like Airbnb for rooms or Uber for rides, is a perfect example of code creating entirely new markets.
How so?
These platforms use apps and smart algorithms to match people who have underused assets, a spare room, an empty car seat with people who need them. All the transactions are digital, and trust. That's often built through rating systems, reviews.
Right, the star rating.
Exactly. So for you, the sharing economy has probably already changed how you travel, find a place to stay, get around town, offering new options, sometimes cheaper ones.
They've definitely shaken things up.
Yeah.
What's the wider economic impact, though? Is it all positive?
Well, on one hand, these platforms give individuals ways to earn money from assets just sitting idle. And they can boost local economies. Think Airbnb bringing tourists to neighborhoods outside the usual hotel districts. But there are concerns about where the value ends up. As these platforms get huge, a big chunk of the money often flows back to the tech companies running them, usually in places like Silicon Valley.
Not staying in the local community where the ride or the stay happened.
Right, that's the concern. Charlie Songhurst, mentioned in the book, talks about this value flowing back to the tech hubs. So for you, it highlights these complex dynamics of the digital age. Innovation creates opportunity, but it can also potentially concentrate wealth.
You mentioned algorithm-generated trust before. Can you break that down a bit more?
Sure. Think about using eBay or Airbnb. You're often dealing with a total stranger, right?
Yeah.
How do you trust them? Usually through the platform's ratings and reviews. Other people have shared their experiences, and an algorithm crunches that feedback into a score for the seller or host. Even though you don't know them personally, their high rating, built on lots of past positive interactions, gives you confidence.
So the algorithm builds the trust.
Exactly. It's a system of digital reputation, facilitating these coded market interactions. For you, understanding this is key to navigating this increasingly digital peer-to-peer economy.
And how is this codification playing out globally? Is it the same everywhere?
Mobile payments are having a massive impact, especially where traditional banking is limited. Look at M-Pesa in Kenya or similar mobile money systems across Africa. They've given millions of previously unbanked people access to financial services just using basic mobile phones.
So not necessarily complex crypto, but still transformative.
Absolutely. Often simpler tech, but with a huge effect on financial inclusion and economic activity. For you, it shows how technology can leapfrog old infrastructure and create really innovative solutions tailored to local needs.
Okay, let's move to a topic that feels critical in this connected world: cybersecurity. Why should listeners really care about this?
In a world where everything's increasingly online, our phones, our banks, our power grid, our cars, cybersecurity isn't just for IT departments or governments anymore. It's fundamental for everyone.
Especially with the Internet of Things.
Precisely. The Internet of Things, everyday objects connected online, massively expands the potential attack surface for bad actors. If your smart thermostat, your security camera, even your fridge is online.
My fridge.
Yeah. Each one is a potential weak link, an entry point for cyber attacks. So for you, this means protecting your digital life, being aware of the risks, is becoming just as vital as locking your front door.
Can you give some real-world examples of attacks, just to show why this matters so much?
Sure. The Shamoon attack on Saudi Aramco wasn't about stealing data. It was an integrity attack designed to just wipe computers clean, causing massive disruption.
Wow.
The Syrian Electronic Army's hack of the Associated Press Twitter account. Relatively simple, but it sent the stock market tumbling for a bit. Shows how even minor hacks can have big financial ripple effects.
Right.
The huge Target data breach affecting millions, that started through a third-party HVAC company connected to their system. Highlights vulnerabilities in unexpected places.
The supply chain.
Exactly. Researchers have shown they can remotely hack and control a Jeep Cherokee while it's driving. Serious safety implications for connected cars.
That's terrifying.
And Proofpoint found hacked home devices, like refrigerators, being used as thing bots in cyber attacks. Shows how even seemingly harmless devices can be compromised. For you, these examples just underscore the diverse, potentially severe impacts: financial loss, privacy breaches, even physical safety risks.
It is unsettling. Who are the major players in cybersecurity? What's the focus?
While many countries now see cybersecurity as vital national security, they're developing national strategies. The US, China, Russia, Israel, the UK, they're seen as having very advanced cyber capabilities.
And what are they worried about?
A big focus for nations and businesses is protecting intellectual property. There are constant concerns about state-sponsored cyber espionage stealing trade secrets, tech advantages. And cyber warfare is a growing worry, too. Look at Russia's actions in Ukraine, Estonia, Georgia, cyber attacks used as part of wider conflicts. For you, this global focus just shows how important strong security is at every level, from you as an individual right up to big organizations.
There's sometimes talk of a cyber-industrial complex. What's that about?
It's drawing a parallel to the military-industrial complex. The idea is a potentially cozy, self-serving relationship between cybersecurity firms and government agencies.
Fueling spending.
Yeah, the concern is it could lead to overhyping threats just to justify more spending, maybe crowding out other priorities. But the book argues the cyber landscape changes so fast that agility and constant innovation are key. So a big bureaucratic complex might be less likely to dominate than, say, nimbler private sector innovators. For you, it suggests cybersecurity will likely stay a really dynamic, competitive field.
Okay, the last big trend we wanted to explore. Big data. We hear this term all the time. What does it really mean for listeners, practically speaking?
Big data, basically, is about two things. First, the absolutely massive, ever-growing amount of digital data being created. Second, and maybe more importantly, our increasing ability to analyze all that data, often in near real time.
To do what?
To spot patterns, predict future trends, make smarter decisions. It's not just the volume of data, it's the tools we now have to process it, make sense of it, visualize it. For you, big data is probably already influencing your life constantly. The ads you see, the movie recommendations you get.
Can you give us a sense of scale? Just how much data are we talking about? It's hard to wrap your head around.
The scale is mind-boggling. Estimates suggest something like 90% of all the digital data in the world was created in just the last couple of years.
90%. Wow.
Yeah, and it keeps growing exponentially, maybe 50% a year, every minute. Millions of emails, countless Facebook posts, tons of YouTube videos uploaded, plus all the data from sensors in factories, cars, everywhere. We're talking zettabytes per year. A zettabyte is a trillion gigabytes.
That's almost meaningless. It's so big.
It is. Put it this way. If you tried to store 1 year's worth of data on standard DVDs, the stack would reach the moon and back several times over. For you, the sheer volume highlights the huge potential for insights, but also the massive challenge of managing and actually using it effectively.
So where is all this data being used in ways that are relevant to us?
Pretty much everywhere. The Obama campaign famously used data analytics for incredibly targeted voter messaging. Machine translation, like Google Translate, gets better and better because it learns from vast amounts of language data, though understanding nuance, spoken language, that's still tricky.
Right.
Precision agriculture uses sensor data to optimize farming, like the pasture meter in New Zealand helping dairy farmers manage grazing using real-time data. The financial industry is being totally reshaped. Square Capital uses real-time transaction data to offer loans to small businesses. bypassing traditional methods. Even national security and law enforcement Palantir's software help analyze data for the U.S. military, and it was used in the Bernie Madoff fraud investigation. For you, these examples just show how big data is driving efficiency, personalization, innovation across almost every service and industry you interact with.
It sounds incredibly powerful. But are there downsides, risks we should be aware of?
Absolutely. Privacy is a huge one. As more of our lives generate data, big questions arise. Who owns it? How's it used? Who sees it?
Yeah.
This idea of data permanence information shared online, especially by kids, sticking around forever, that's a real worry. And we've seen examples of companies using data in ethically dubious ways.
So what's the takeaway for us?
For you, it really highlights the need to be mindful of your digital footprint, understand privacy settings, maybe advocate for stronger data protection rules. And philosophically, some worry about increased surveillance, eroding privacy, or algorithms embedding existing societal biases if they're trained on biased data.
Okay, the book also looks at the geography of future markets. Where are these new industries actually taking root? Does it matter where you live?
The idea of domain expertise is really key here. That's the deep knowledge and talent concentrated in certain places, giving them an edge in specific industries.
Like Detroit for cars, Silicon Valley for the internet.
Exactly. And we're seeing new hubs emerge for these future industries. Genomics research, it's clustering around big research centers. Boston, Baltimore, the Bay Area, and increasingly Beijing. Cybersecurity, Israel is very strong. Robotics, Japan, South Korea, Germany are leaders. For you, understanding these clusters gives clues about where future jobs and investment might concentrate.
But Silicon Valley still seems dominant in so much of this tech stuff. Will that last?
Silicon Valley definitely has a huge head start, decades of building that innovation culture, attracting money, building networks. That's hard to replicate quickly.
It's true.
But we are seeing innovation pop up elsewhere, often leveraging local strengths, that pasture meter in New Zealand's dairy industry. Perfect example, innovation driven by deep local knowledge. Cities, generally, remain vital innovation hubs, good infrastructure, diverse people using data to run things better. So for you, while the big hubs stay important, opportunities are emerging elsewhere, especially in places playing to specific local advantages.
The book shares some really cool examples of innovation coming from individuals in maybe unexpected places. Can you share one to maybe inspire listeners?
Absolutely. Maria Umar's Women's Digital League in Pakistan is a great one. She used social media, online platforms to connect women in Pakistan with freelance digital work globally,
Wow.
creating economic empowerment where traditional job options for women might be limited. It just shows the power of individuals using available tech to create opportunities, tackle social issues. For you, it's a fantastic reminder that innovation isn't just for fancy tech hubs. It can come from anyone, anywhere with a good idea and drive. The book also contrasts places like Estonia, which embraced openness, with more closed societies, showing how freedom and access to information really fuel creativity.
The book also really hammers home the importance of empowering women for a country's competitiveness. Why is that so critical for these future industries?
The argument is pretty straightforward. You can't compete effectively if you're leaving half your population's talent on the sidelines.
Makes sense.
Fully integrating women into the economy, into leadership, brings diverse perspectives, expands the talent pool, drives innovation. The book points to China's progress on women's equality as partly fueling its success. Conversely, places with more restrictions on women, like parts of the Middle East and North Africa, might struggle to compete in the future. Even highly developed Japan ranks surprisingly low on gender diversity and leadership, despite its tech strength.
So diversity isn't just nice to have.
No, for you, this underlines that diversity and inclusion aren't just ethical issues, they're critical economic drivers. The book also stresses engaging youth who often have a natural feel for data analytics and new tech.
What about developing countries, especially in Africa? How do they fit into this future picture?
Africa has this amazing potential to leapfrog older development stages. How? By leveraging mobile tech and a real culture of frugal innovation, finding smart, low-cost solutions to local problems.
Like in peace.
Exactly. M-Pesa in Kenya created a whole mobile financial system where traditional banking was scarce. Other examples like iCow or Greenie Bunch show mobile tech empowering farmers. This suggests the future might see a more distributed pattern of innovation globally, with significant contributions from regions previously seen as peripheral. For you, it highlights why a global perspective is crucial. Innovation and opportunity can truly come from anywhere now.
This has been incredibly insightful, a real deep dive into these future industries. So based on everything we've discussed, what are some concrete, actionable things our listeners can take away? Things they can apply to their own lives, like right now?
Right, the so what. That's key. Okay, first, focus on building fundamental skills that are valuable across these changing fields. Strong analytical skills, problem solving those, are gold.
Okay.
Consider getting some technical literacy. You don't need to become a master coder overnight, but understanding basics of coding or data analysis, use resources like Codecademy, Scratch. That's hugely beneficial.
Languages too.
Yes. Learning other languages, both human ones like Mandarin or Spanish and technical ones like Python, can open serious doors in this global digital world. Also, cultivate a mindset of adaptability, of continuous learning.
Because things change so fast.
Exactly. The pace is only increasing, so being willing to learn new things, adapt. That's vital for long-term success.
Yeah.
Be proactive about your own data privacy and security. Understand your digital footprint. Check those privacy settings. Know how your data is being used.
Nice.
Look for opportunities emerging in these industries, even if you're not in a major tech hub. New roles, entrepreneurial paths are popping up in robotics, personalized health, data analysis everywhere. And finally, stay curious, keep learning, read about these trends, think critically about what they mean for you, your family, your community.
Okay, so just to quickly recap some key takeaways for everyone listening.
Yeah.
The future is being seriously reshaped by robotics, life sciences, code, cybersecurity, big data all converging. Understanding these forces isn't really optional anymore, right? It's crucial for navigating what's coming, finding opportunities. The past disruptions teach us about adapting.
Yeah.
And this next wave offers huge potential, but also challenges for those who are prepared.
And maybe just one final thought for you to chew on. As these powerful technologies weave deeper into our lives, what are the core human values, the uniquely human skills that become even more important? How do we make sure all this progress serves humanity in ways that are not just prosperous, but also truly meaningful?
Really important questions. Definitely something to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you'll think about these insights, maybe even check out some of the resources. Until our next exploration, stay curious.